The White House is expected to put out a revised executive order on immigration this Wednesday. We've been talking about it this hour. It will replace the original one that was halted by the courts. My next guest was the first Attorney General to file a brief in support of the president, thereby committing his state of Texas to backing President Trump's immigration pause. Joining me now, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. Sir, good to have you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, you got right in the middle of this big fight very early on. Why?
Well, we were pretty clear on the law. We felt like the court missed the law, and so we filed what's called an amicus brief, which is a friend of the court brief, to help them look at the law in a way that they had not. And we felt like there was a clear statute that gave the president the authority to deal with aliens and restrict their entry for as long as he felt it was necessary if he felt like it was detrimental to the United States. And so we wanted the court to be aware of that law, and we're hopeful that at some point that'll matter.
Now, I know you attached, I'm going to get a little legal here, but I think people need to understand you attached a brief in asking the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in California for permission to argue in support of the president's temporary ban on travelers from 7 predominantly Muslim countries. From what we know, will that language still be in what we see this week in the new executive order?
You know what? I don't know, but I expect it to be similar, but maybe some exceptions for green card holders, maybe for dual citizens, maybe a couple of other exceptions, but I would generally expect the executive order to be very similar to what he put out before.
I want to talk with you specifically about what Texas is dealing with and how you think that a new executive order would help with that.
Well, I mean, we have been asking for help for years from the Obama administration. We've been concerned about refugees and immigrants coming from countries that have a history of terrorism without any vetting, without any information for the state to know what kinds of people we're dealing with. So we've been asking for help. We actually filed a lawsuit a few years ago related to this very issue. So we're actually very pleased that the president's put forward an action like this.
Part of the president's plan is to lean on local law enforcement to act as immigration officers in rounding up illegals in our nation. And in fact, in your very state, Houston's mayor I was reading about opted out of this kind of action. Can you force Houston and others to participate?
You know, it's actually an idea I like a lot because I proposed it in my own legislature a few years ago. So I don't think we can necessarily force them, but I think there'll be agencies throughout the state that will be open to helping deal with this problem because they're already dealing with the problem, especially along the border, and we're having to spend a lot of state resources anyway. So I think this is a really excellent idea. It's a way to expand our force and give us the authority to actually help the federal government.
How do you deal with Houston, though?
You know, it's going to be a case-by-case basis. I think we'll have other agencies that will step in all across the state. So I'm not really that concerned about one mayor. I think that the state will step forward to provide a lot of help.
How do you legally get rid of a sanctuary city? And the reason I'm asking that is I know your state is battling right now, particularly with Austin. Your governor just defunded part of their funding for the police department, about $1 million.
Yeah, I think there's two ways. The legislature is obviously considering those bills this session. The governor's been very clear that he's going to defund, and that's the part of what's going to happen, I think, in these bills. Defund cities, just like the Trump administration threatened to do, defund them if they participate in sanctuary cities. And also in the statute they're talking about in Texas, potentially make it a criminal or civil violation for an elected official basically to ignore their constitutional duty to uphold the Constitution and our federal and state laws.
Attorney General Ken Paxton from the state of Texas, we appreciate you joining us tonight.